It's time to eat our vegetables, people. We're going to talk about some of the basics that you got to worry about when you are a trading card seller, retailer. Retailer's too strong of a word. Backpack seller is actually what we are. Thanks for tuning in, y'all. Let's dive in. So first things first, let's talk about the number 10 envelope. These things are incredible because guess what? On TCG Player, when you get a packing slip like this that has been censored to protect the buyer, the buyer of something on TCG Player. They bought a mystical archive from me, a dark ritual, Japanese alternate art. Very cool. So for $50, crazy. So the first tip, because people aren't doing this. You know, you're watching this and you're like, this is a stupid tip, Nick. Yes, it is. But people aren't doing this. People are shipping in all kinds of envelopes of all kinds of sizes. And you know, maybe it makes sense for you. There's things to consider beyond what I'm talking about, but let's take a look at how easy your life can be when you use the number 10 printing format on TCG Player or other resources, and then you use a windowed envelope. Because look, check this out. The address, by the way, is right behind here. You fold it like so on this dotted line, and then once you have your card and top loader, you just tape it onto here. And now I say tape it, people freak out. Scotch tape, people freak out. This is the deal. You put the card in an inner sleeve. You put the inner sleeve inside of a top loader. You put the top loader inside of a team bag. You seal the team bag. And at that point, now that the card is 5 layers away from whatever you're going to put on the outside to attach it, then you can use some tape to tape it to this piece of paper. You then can fold this bottom part up just like this. And now you've got this nifty little piece of paper, and you get your envelope, your number 10 envelope or whatever it's called, and you can put it in just like this. And their address is right here. You then have a stamp. See my links below. On Amazon, you can get a stamp that has your address on it. Custom stamp to just put your address on it. And then, of course, the postage stamp right there. Seal this. You're ready to go. Booyah. So that's the first, like, eat your vegetables kind of tip. There's so many little things you can do. It's like sorting your cards too. You need to sort your cards. They need to be alphabetical by set, or there's such thing as the chaos sort. If you're using different softwares that are out there, sometimes they have a chaos sort method. I'm not going to get into that, but that's another way that you can sort your cards. Just these basic things that you got to do, but they're a little bit boring. Going to talk about something a little more fun, which is shipping and shipping costs. Shipping costs keep going up. TCG Player recently just raised their shipping costs from $1.31 to $1.49 or $1.50, where if you buy a 1 cent card, you're now spending like $1.50 on shipping instead of the $1.31. Pretty crazy, because just like a couple of years ago, it was like $1 for shipping or $1.19. They just keep raising it because the cost of shipping keeps going up. Stamps keep going up in price, and very interesting. But what can you do to save on shipping? There's a couple of things. One is being careful how you package. So if you can fit a lot of cards inside of one envelope. You can stack like 3 stacks vertically of cards and have, like 8 cards per stack. So you could have 24 cards inside of this envelope that you don't have to pay, a shipping label for. It's going to weigh more than 1 stamp's worth, right? So you're going to need 1 normal stamp, and then there's extra ounce stamps. You don't have to use more of the forever stamps. You can have 1 forever stamp and then 2 extra ounce stamps, but you can fit 24 cards inside of 1 envelope. I bought, what was that? I don't know. I bought a bunch of the Vreston cards that I mentioned in a different video, Vreston Minopetra Leader or whatever from Doctor Who. And somebody shipped me with a tracking label. They spent like $6 on a tracking label for, it was like 20 something cards. And I felt bad because I didn't spend that much money on those cards, but they used a tracking label. But the point is that you don't. Often, assuming the package value, the value of the cards is under like $35, you can get away with using a plain white envelope and packing a bunch of cards inside of here. Now, of course, if it's like 40, 50, 60 cards, you're probably going to need to pay shipping. I guess RNG Games, Rob talked about how you can use multiple envelopes. So, if there's 40 cards, you could have 8 cards in one, or 24 cards in one envelope, 24 cards in another. And that way you're just spending the cost of 2 forever stamps and 4 extra ounce stamps, which is still less than the $5 plus that it would be for a shipping label. But that's a lot of work. I think at that point, I'd just get the normal shipping label. If this doesn't make sense, I'm sorry, but this is just the world of selling cards. These are the kinds of things you got to worry about. And let's go. Let's talk about more tips on saving on shipping, because my general rule of thumb, and I adopted this from other channels that do, that sell cards, is that if you sell a card that is worth less than $35, you ship it in a plain white envelope. If you sell a card that's worth over $35, it needs to have some sort of tracking. And then, of course, over $50, TCG Player requires that you have some sort of tracking. So it gets expensive. I mean, the margins of your card. So if you sell a $35 card and you have to buy a $5 tracking label, that's a seventh of all your profits just burnt on tracking, which is a bummer. So what can you do about that? Well, there's this neato website called TCG Tracking that I was introduced to by a friend recently, where you can, I don't know if I have a good way to screen share this, but check it out, tcgtracking.com. And it gives you have to pay for it, but it gives you ways to import the TCG export files. So you export shipping from TCG Player or whatever card market, whatever platform you're using. Then you import it into tcgtracking.com. And then for a cost, it's, something like 50 cents an envelope. They will get you a kind of like pseudo tracking. And so, it's not as good as like a full tracking, but it's some tracking, and you can buy insurance. And so you can get your envelopes insured. And that is what is recommended for $35 to $50 shipments. Much cheaper than a full tracking label, but you still get the insurance. You still get some sort of tracking. You're able to put that tracking on TCG Player. I'm not really sure how the technology works. I'm not even sure if I'm using it right. It's quite new to me, but I've seen a lot of other sellers recommend it. And so that's why I feel comfortable recommending it. Pretty cool. And then, of course, $50 and above, you just need pirateship.com to use Pirate Ship to get normal tracking, normal labels. They always cost $5 plus. It's expensive, but it is what it is. It's part of the game. I mean, it's crazy that you sell a $50 card and already $5 plus is just shipping that card, right? 10% of your profits are just gone. And then, of course, another, 13% of your profits are in fees. And so what does that leave you? It's like 75%. That's the reason why when you buy collections, and why when stores buy collections, they're buying it at like 50, 60. I buy collections at 70%, and that's worked out for me pretty well. But it does get dicey for those cards that are on the precipice of those boundaries for when you need to pay for extra shipping or not. Anyways, boring stuff, but let's keep going. What else? Okay, let's talk about making a business. I've had a number of people ask about this, like, why do you make an LLC? When did you make an LLC? What's the benefits of making an LLC? So making an LLC is making a limited liability company or corporation or whatever. And the point of it, technically speaking, is so that you can have a legal business entity that if you get sued, the business entity can be the one to take the heat, not you in your personal life, in your personal finances and whatever. So it's a powerful legal tool. But with what we do, selling trading cards, you don't really have to worry about that. No one's going to get hurt. No one's getting sued. Not legal advice, I guess, but it's not legal advice, but I'm talking about legal things, I'm not the guy to listen to, right? But I'm going to talk about it anyway. So when I make an LLC, I'm not making it because I'm concerned a customer is going to get a package and get a paper cut and want to sue me. I don't think that's ever going to happen. The reason I have an LLC is kind of three things. One is it's cool. Two is that it gives me the opportunity to get a business bank account, business credit card, which is really excellent for separating business finances from your family finances. And yeah, there's some, I don't know, it's just so fun to have separate business side hustle accounts and things like that. I'm like a big finance money nerd. And so it's a lot of fun. Definitely a big perk of having an LLC is being able to get your business bank accounts and business credit card and whatever. But the biggest thing, I think, for our purposes, is the reseller certificate. So once you have an LLC, you can, with your state or with wherever, get a reseller certificate. And with the reseller certificate, you don't have to pay sales tax. I'm not sure how this works internationally or if it does work internationally, but at least in the United States, you have to pay sales tax on products unless the vendor accepts your reseller certificate, and then they don't have to charge you sales tax. So eBay, for example, on your eBay account, you can send them a reseller certificate, and they'll update your eBay account so that you don't have to pay sales tax on anything you buy on eBay. The premise of that is that everything you're buying on eBay is for your business. And that's what it's supposed to be. That's what you're supposed to do. But it is just like so powerful that for me, when I buy Magic cards, like when I was buying cases of Modern Horizons 3 from Flipside Games, that I wasn't paying sales tax. I wasn't wasting, it would have been like $100 of sales tax, but I didn't have to pay that because I had put my reseller certificate into eBay and had gotten that all figured out. So it takes some effort. It takes some research. It differs by state, but getting your reseller certificate and trying to use that whenever possible. There's been some other sites that have accepted reseller certificates that I've used. TCG Player, unfortunately, does not accept reseller certificates or doesn't care. You just end up paying sales tax, which is too bad, but alas. Anyways, okay, last thing we're going to talk about, taxes. I've gotten a couple questions about taxes. What do you do about taxes? So taxes, when you're running a business or have some side income, roughly speaking, once again, I'm not the legal guy. I'm not the guy you should listen to, but for entertainment purposes, and this is the way I think about it, is that with your side business, you make X dollars. Like I sold $100,000 of cards in the year 2025. Now, technically, so $100,000 entered my bank accounts. And that is what I reported as a kind of income to the government. Like I did get paid $100,000. However, I did not make $100,000. In fact, and this is where write-offs come in, right? Because I spent a lot of money on Magic cards in 2025. I spent tens of thousands of dollars on Magic cards. And so let's say that I spent $70,000 on inventory. So I spent $70,000 buying Commander deck sets and buying booster box cases and buying collections and whatever. That was the inventory that I sold. And so I'm able to write all that off, right? So as far as the government's concerned, I did not make $100,000. I only made $30,000. Except that's not all, because I also bought a bunch of Final Fantasy Collector booster boxes and other inventory. And so all these things are write-offs. And let's say I spent another $20,000 on that. So as far as the government's concerned, I made $10,000 from my business. But that's not all, because there's other things you're able to write off too, like all the supplies that I use, like all the stamps, all of the, office amenities. I bought a new printer that's for my business. That's a write-off. I'm not the expert on what legally is or is not write-offs. I'm just telling you what I entered into TurboTax, and it worked out for me. But printers and labels and ink and all these things. There's some amount of food you're allowed to write off. Every once in a while, I'll swipe my business credit card when paying for a meal when it's related to my business. And like I said, I'll let TurboTax figure it out for me at the end of the year. But these are all write-offs. And at the end of 2025, when I'm filling out my taxes, I did not make any money. I had $100,000 entered my bank account, but I spent overall, including inventory, including certain booster products and things like that I intend on selling later. Like the government will get their money eventually, right? Because at some point I am going to keep profits. And whenever I do that, I'm going to need to pay taxes on it. But 2025 was not that year, thanks to write-offs. And writing stuff off is an important part of any business to help it function and be successful. So do some research, talk to a real tax person. But that is a powerful tool, an interesting way that you can help improve the amount of cash you have now, that you can invest in your business, that you can be successful. Anyways, thanks for watching. Subscribe. We'll see you in the next one. Peace.